Hi, thanks for joining me again. So in the previous video, I spoke about how we can use gold as a hedge against inflation. So in this session, I'm going to talk to you about the second problem, and I know you guys are excited to hear about it. And without further ado, let's get into it. Hi, thanks again for joining. So, like I said in the previous session, we spoke about how we can use gold to hedge against inflation. And in this episode, I'm going to talk to you about how we can use gold to block leakage. So you must be thinking, nourish leakage. You mean if I have some leakage in my house, I can use gold to paste it, right? No, no, that's not what I mean. So let's get into it, right? So money leaks from savings. So what do I mean by that? So we work so hard. We get our salary end of the month, and then we have all these allocations. So for a retirement, for emergency fund, and for college and whatnot. And we thought we are doing a great job, right? So we have our monthly income coming in, and then we keep all our allocations properly, and then we pat ourselves saying that okay, good job, good job. But then something happened. Okay, so what do I mean by that? This happened, right? Suddenly, so what happened is that you scrolling down your Facebook, and then suddenly this a pair of shoes that you saw a couple of times, and then you thought, okay, let me look into it next time, and then now the same advertisements come popping again, asking you remember me. Then you decided to give it a try to look what is it, okay, what's the promotion is all about. And then usually the nature of this promotion is that they will have it in a very rushing manner, where they say that they only have few units left, and then you have to buy it within the next 10-20 minutes, otherwise you will lose this opportunity. So when you are put in that kind of situation, you thought that okay, I think maybe I can use my emergency fund for this because it's kind of emergency, right? So you start using your emergency fund for this. Okay, but then when you keep responding for all these advertisements that keep popping up in your Facebook, keep popping up in your YouTube, so what's going to happen, right? So you have all these allocations beautifully decorated, but then empty, right? And then you start asking yourself, I thought I saved money, but where is it? Okay, so this is where I'm going to talk to you about this program, again by Public Gold, known as Gold Accumulation Program, right? Just as the name implies, right? Gold Accumulation Program is basically a savings program where for every deposits that you make, it gets converted into the gram of gold based on the current price on that day, current price of gold on that day. Okay, so you can see that there are quite a number of products under Public Gold. You can see they are even comes in various shapes and sizes. You have the gold coin version of the gold bar. You also have the square version, the rectangle version, and they also come in various designs. And and it is also important for me to tell you that this is the company. Public Gold is the world first Sharia compliant gold and silver trading company. So in the previous video, I spoke about how important Sharia compliant is. So for those of you who didn't watch, it simply means that when we buy from them and they are able to give us that physical gold, this transaction simply means it's Sharia compliant. So this is important because there are other methods, there are other platforms out there which also allow you to save in the form of gold, but it's only paper gold, right? They do not have that physical form of gold with them. Therefore, when you want to withdraw that gram of gold, they just can't do that simply because they do not have that physical gold to begin with. So Public Gold just outcompete all these institutions, outcompete all these platforms by having that physical backing of their gold. So this is the first thing that I want to share with you. So you must be wondering, so okay, so you have this gold accumulation program. I can deposit my money and then it gets converted into gram. What are the benefits of this gold accumulation program? So first thing, you can start as little as 100 ringgit. Okay, you can start with as little as 100 ringgit, and it gets converted based on the current price of gold on that day for at 4 decimal places. And this transaction can take place 24/7. You do not have to go to that particular institution during office hour, get the queue number, and to perform this transaction. So everything now is done online, right? This is the first benefit. Second benefit is that the ability of Public Gold have the physical backing of gold. which means that if you want to withdraw that gram of gold that you have, you can easily do so with public gold. And third, they do not have this monthly or annual fee associated with the gold accumulation program, which means that just you start with 100 ringgit, you just put 100 ringgit, and that 100 ringgit gets converted automatically in the form of gram, right? So there is no monthly fee being charged, there is no annual fee being charged. So the only requirement is that when you want to withdraw, you must make sure that you have at least 1 gram of gold in that account. That is the only requirement. Apart from that, is there any fee associated when it comes to maintaining that gram of gold in gold accumulation program account? The answer is no, right? And so minimum withdrawal, so like I said, they have the physical backing of gold, and if you wish to withdraw uh, the your gram of gold physically, you need to withdraw at least 1 gram, right? So like I mentioned earlier, as a requirement of this gap, you need to have at least 1 gram balance in your account. So if you accumulate at least 2 gram and above, right, then you can withdraw 1 gram of gold physically by visiting branches of public gold around Malaysia. And you can also open junior account with parents, meaning parents, if they want to start saving for the future of their children's education, right? Because the education in the future might be definitely will be costly. Therefore, you can start saving now for the next 10-15 years. So at that time when your children are going for their higher education, so you do not have to worry about applying loans or getting scholarships or whatsoever, simply because that you can use your grams of gold. And at that time, definitely the gold would have appreciated. Therefore you can sell a certain gram of gold to cater or to fulfill the education of your children. So this is something that the parents out there can take note and perhaps consider for the children's future. So who can benefit from this gap? First, savings for retirement fund. In fact, when I first started out this gap, that was my intention. I wanted to save for my retirement fund. So I started this program, I would say like a year back, at least a year back, and I've started seeing the increment of the value. So that's why I decided that this is something that is worth pursuing further. So this is the first one. Second, for future commitments. For example, if you want to buy a house or you want to start a business. So for the, let's say, for the young adults who are joining into the workforce, right? So they may have some, they can actually allocate a portion of their savings in the form of gold. So that in the future, let's say if they want to buy a house, they would definitely need to put a certain percentage of down payment. So at that time, instead of applying for personal loans or withdraw from any available alternatives, they can actually use their gram of gold and sell it off and use that as the deposit for their house loan, for example. So this is something that the young adults can also take advantage of. And parents to save for children's education fund, like I mentioned earlier. So parents can open a junior account with your children. And rolling of business capital. There are also business owners who have their extra capital in the form of gold. So what they do, they take out this gold. So usually businesses, they need to roll their capital in order to restock their inventory or to make some payments to their vendors and things like that. So they use their goal which they have converted using their extra capital, and they actually use that cash to do all this to settle all these expenses. And once they get the money from their once they manage to roll the money, then they can get back that goal which they have pledged earlier. There is also a way on how you can get this done. I'm not going to talk to you in detail about this, but this is something that perhaps I can talk in the next video. But for business owners, this is something definitely that they can do. And of course, pilgrimage. Okay, so some people, they want to uh, after you work so hard, and then you will think, okay, I think I would like to visit the holy place. I want to visit this place where I feel that I want to be spiritually connected. So of course, these activities require cost, right? So what you can do, you can start saving in the form of save in the gap account. So when the time comes, you look at the cost required to perform that activity, and accordingly you can use the gram of gold to cater to that plan. All right. So in this graph, I just want to show you that how the the price of gold has shifted across the years. So if you look in the year 2000, if you look in the year 1996, 1 kilogram, okay, this is kilogram of gold. So 1 kilogram of gold is worth 30,000 ringgit, right? So in the year 20, so if you look at the current recent price, is about 246,000. So if only we have 30,000 ringgit in the year 96, we convert them into 1 kg of gold, and then just keep that kg of gold, right? So after 30 years, okay, after 30 years, that 1 kg of gold is now worth 246,000 ringgit. But of course, the challenge here is that you must keep it for the 30 years, for that long period of time. But nevertheless, okay, so if you have some plans for us to make use in the future, so when is the time to start? Now. All right. So again, I just want to show that if we put a dot at the beginning, and then we put a dot at the current price, and if you look what is the trend of the gold price, it's always on the uptrend. Though in the short term you can see the price fluctuates, but since we are looking at least 3 to 5 years down the road, okay, since we are looking 3 to 5 years down the road, these temporary fluctuations rather will serve us as new opportunities to increase our holdings, to increase our gap account. That's how I look at it, right? So the key here is that I would like to introduce to you this concept known as dollar cost averaging. So what does it mean? So earlier I mentioned to you that with as little as 100 ringgit, that 100 ringgit gets converted into the gram of gold in your gap account, right? So for example, if you see here in February 2020, 100 ringgit gets you 0.4566 gram, right? So in your account you have 0.4566 gram, which is the four decimal places which I spoke earlier. And then let's say for some reason, okay, I skipped depositing from March to October, which is not the ideal way, but let's say for some reason I didn't do it. So in November I decided to um, transfer the deposit 100 ringgit, and 100 ringgit gives you 0.3676. So 3676 plus 0.4566 gives you 0.8242 gram, right? And then in December 2020, again I deposited 100 ringgit, it gives me 0.3717, therefore I'm having 1.1959 gram. And then in January 2021, 100 ringgit gives me 0.3676, and in my gap account it gives me 1.5635 gram. So you can see here is that just by consistently depositing 100 ringgit month after month, what happened here is that the gram in our gap account is increasing over time, right? Will increase. So during that temporary fluctuation, like I mentioned in the graph earlier, if you notice that the price is dropping, maybe you can just transfer another 100 ringgit just to take advantage of that price drop. But apart from that, just consistently putting 100 ringgit month after month, uh, the beauty is that you do not have to worry, right? Because since we are playing the long term game, okay, since our time horizon is long, at least 3 to 5 years down the road, so the short term volatility should not affect us. But it further, the short term volatility serves as a opportunity actually, right? So this is where the dollar cost averaging can be the strategy for us when we choose to invest, or when we choose to save by using this gap account. All right. And so to sum up my presentation today, so the first problem, like I mentioned to you in my previous video, was that the money value is decreasing over time, right? Where we saw the inflation is eating away the value of our money. And the solution for that is that by converting a portion of our savings into a form of asset, and this asset must appreciate over time. And out of all the assets that we saw, precious metals is what I'm proposing to you, right? So by looking at how the gold price is increasing on the long term, and we can actually ride the momentum by using gold as a tool, right? So that was the first problem. And the second problem is the leakage problem, like I mentioned to you earlier, where we thought that we are having our allocations nicely, but for some reason, due to human nature, we tend to spend it off. But let's say if you keep that savings in gap account, all right? So when you keep it in the gap account, um, gold has this some aura that when you start saving in the form of gold, the tendency of you to get rid of that gold will be very little, right? So meaning that you are more encouraged to keep on saving in the form of gold, which is eventually good for us, right? So that's what we wanted to do anyway, right? So again, the solution is that by setting aside 100 ringgit at least in the form of gap account, and ride the momentum of gold price in the long term. All right. So how do you start? So how to start, right? So okay, so we have heard about these two problems from the first video, and this is in the second video. So you must be wondering, so okay, Naresh, so I've heard about these two problems you're talking about. I can understand briefly what are you trying to say. So but what can I do? Okay, what can I do about it? So first thing, you can review your existing plans. Okay, we can review our existing plans and make some changes if needed. Okay, so if you have certain allocations, perhaps we can allocate one for this gap account, for example. This is something that we can consider. Okay, so second, so some of you who are listening about this public goal for the first time, so you must be having this that skeptical thoughts, right? So how, Nourish, is this really true? That does it actually work? Okay, how if they run away with my money, right? Okay, all these are fair questions. I had that too, right? So if you have these doubts, what must we do? We must search more information, right? So when I first found out about this public goal, I actually did a lot of reading. I Google about it, I attend talks, and after reading about it, I decided to give it a try. I started small, and then once I saw the my gram has the value of the gram is increasing, that's when I decided that this is something which is worth looking into. Right, so again, you also can do that. Okay, if you have any questions, you can drop your questions in the comment section below, or you can always I mentioned to you about my Telegram channel, right? You can join my Telegram channel and you can drop me a question there, and I will answer them. All right, so you can find more information, get more knowledge, because we must know what are we doing. Okay, so before we take action, we must know what is it all about first. All right. Or third, you must be thinking, okay, so Naresh, I've heard about this goal. I know goal has got has its unique behavior, has its unique feature. I want to try. Okay, so what can I do? I want to try. So what you can do, you can consider starting the gap account by doing the dollar cost averaging, like I mentioned earlier. And if you want to do that, if you're ready to do it, just drop me a message on the Telegram channel, and I will be happy to guide you along. And we can all save for our future using gold as a tool, right? So with that, thank you again once again for joining me in this episode. Join me in my Telegram channel. Like this video. If you have any questions, you can put the comment there, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. And I will see you in the next video. And until then, take care, and I will see you soon.